Wagner, man. Wagner. Big Wagner update. Everybody's been talking about Bakhmut and how the flanks of the Russian army are starting to cave in. Wagner, is still trying to capture the city itself, but its flanks were supported by poorly manned, poorly armed, and most likely poorly trained troops, and it's starting to cave in to just the slightest of really what seems like probing attacks. Wagner is claiming that this is the big counteroffensive, but none of the new units that have been trained by a lot of Western countries and that have been held in reserves, none of those have been deployed yet. So this isn't really the counteroffensive. It's most likely Wagner just talking smack again. But we've got a big leak, which could be either the most excellent psyop I've seen in the world. And I know, my parents were feds, as in, a machinist for the federal government and a cook for the federal government. My grandparents who raised me were feds. My name is Dylan Burns. My real grandfather, if you listen to the truth tellers on the internet, is William Burns, CIA director. I grew up in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, which is Fed Central. I know a good psyop when I've seen one. So when I say there's a good chance this is a fantastic psyop, just believe me. And secondly, it could be another type of psyop, not the type that I'm suggesting, which could be trying to grab over Wagner to the side of Ukraine. Not permanently, but in one instance, work with them in Ukraine's benefit, which could also be in Wagner's benefit. Kind of hard to explain, not really getting the message across. Okay, well, let's read the article. Wagner chief offered to give Russian troop locations to Ukraine, leak says. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's the leader of the Wagner group, well, the public-facing leader, not necessarily the military leader, said he would tell Ukraine's military where to attack Russian troops if it pulled its own forces back from the beleaguered city of Bakhmut, where Wagner mercenaries were taking heavy losses. So the general premise is, this is how the story goes, that Yevgeny Prigozhin wanted to capture the city of Bakhmut. He needed it for his own reputation. He needed it for the reputation of Wagner. It's a political victory. He could take home to Russia and wave around in not only the face of the Russian public, but also to the Russian government to justify Wagner's existence, as it is diverting resources from the official military, as Prigozhin is making a lot of noise, either criticizing the Russian military or complaining about a lack of ammunition shipments. And it can, largely protect Wagner's ass and show that Wagner is worth existing outside of a way for Putin to leverage control against the military, which he sees as one of his largest challenges, where he could see one of the largest challenges or most organized challenges to his power. Vladimir Putin has always been scared of the idea of a military hero, a military icon, rising out of the Russian military and challenging him with the backing of the Russian armed forces. And so he's using Wagner to balance against it. But they still need to deliver victories, or it's going to be hard to justify Wagner's resistance to the Russian public and to the Russian government. And so this could throw a wrench in that if Prigozhin is legitimately considering undermining the Russian war effort in protection of his own group, his own interests, and serving Ukrainian interests for his own gain. Let's read a little bit of the article. This is a really interesting story, and I see it as one of two different types of psyops. And I'm going to give you the most basic proposal and then the second proposal, which I think is even more interesting. In late January, with his mercenary forces dying by the thousands in a fight for the ruined city of Bakhmut, the Wagner Group owner Yevgeny Prigozhin made Ukraine an extraordinary offer. Prigozhin said that if Ukraine's commander withdrew their soldiers from the area around Bakhmut, he would give Kiev information on Russian troop positions, which Ukraine could use to attack them. Prigozhin conveyed the proposal to his contacts in the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Directorate, with whom he has maintained secret communications during the course of the war. According to previously unreported U.S. intelligence documents leaked on the group chat platform Discord. Of course, it's all back to Jax Textera, man, the Discord leaker. Man, I'll never get my head fully around the fact that he was leaking it to this Discord just to win their affection, just so he could impress people on the quote-unquote Thug Shaker Central, which was the name of the Discord channel. Thug Shaker Central. He wanted their respect so badly that he was willing to throw away his freedom by leaking these classified documents. Prigozhin has publicly feuded with the Russian military commanders, who he furiously claims have failed to equip and resupply his forces, which have provided vital support to Moscow's war effort. But he is also an ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who might well regard Prigozhin's offer to trade the lives of Wagner fighters for Russian soldiers as a treasonous betrayal. The leaked document does not make clear which Russian troop positions Prigozhin offered to disclose. Two Ukrainian officials confirmed that Prigozhin has spoken several times to the Ukrainian intelligence directorate, known as HUR. One official said that Prigozhin extended the offer regarding Bakhmut more than once, but the Kiev rejected it because officials don't trust Prigozhin and thought his proposals could have been disingenuous. A U.S. official also cautioned that there are similar doubts in Washington about Prigozhin's intentions. The Ukrainian and U.S. officials spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive information. We'll read a little bit more, and then we'll talk about this. In an interview with the Washington Post this month, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky would not confirm the contacts with Prigozhin. This is a matter of military intelligence, he said. The Ukrainian leader also objected to airing classified information publicly and said he believed that the leaks could have benefited Russia. But there is no debating Prigozhin's bitter frustrations with the grinding fight in Bakhmut. He has complained, publicly and privately, that the Russian Defense Ministry has not given his fighters the ammunition and other resources they need to succeed. Bakhmut, in eastern Ukraine, has seen some of the bloodiest fighting of this war. Over the past few months, in a grinding battle for back and forth measured by city blocks, Ukrainian and Russian forces has taken steep casualties. Okay, so this goes into a little bit more detail about possible motivations that Prigozhin could have, but it's pretty obvious what Prigozhin's motivation in doing something like this could be. If he can take Bakhmut, then he can prove why Wagner is needed in Ukraine, its usefulness in Ukraine. Wagner, in part, was originally created by the Russian government, working with people like Utkin behind closed doors and people like Prigozhin, in order to create a barrier of deniability between the actions of the Wagner Group, this private military company, in locations like Libya and Central Africa and Syria, between them and the official Russian military, which could then deny involvement in these conflicts while they act as an extension of the Russian state as a private military company. It was created during the fallout of the Russian invasion of Crimea for this specific purpose, for this specific reason. And so Wagner, as the war has heated up, has been seen originally by some viewers as, oh, these are the people with experience in Syria and Libya and all these other locations that can garner all these victories. And while there certainly is a lot of experienced fighters in Wagner. So 1 second, there's a million notifications playing. Okay, 1 second. Let me read these as you guys are distracting me. I appreciate the donations though. Bobby the Duke Bobby, thank you so much for the 3 gifted tier 1 subs. And Flemmy to Anglo Cossack, thank you for the tier 1 sub. The Discord leaker watched a famous German Hearts of Iron 4 streamer. Oh no, I'm not getting the Hearts of Iron 4 drama. Where was I before I got interrupted? God dang it. I am too tired for this. Where was I? Where was I? Can somebody remind me? Danabo's gonna have to edit this out. If he doesn't, I'm gonna be very disappointed. And you can post this in the YouTube live comment section. Where was I? Oh yes, the Wagner Group was created so they could have some amount of deniability between them and the Wagner Group's actions. That's why the Wagner Group has been a lot more open about the different types of war crimes they commit, where they're posting videos of them executing their own soldiers on Russian social media, whereas the Russian MOD will still act in that same brutality, but they're not going to be so open-facing about it. This is so the Russian government can deny the war crimes that Wagner is involved in while still having the fear factor that Wagner provides in keeping their soldiers in line, because they know that if they surrender or if they retreat, those who have been recruited from these prisons to act as, well, basically living meat for the Ukrainian meat grinder, they know that there would be severe repercussions. So maybe they'll fight more fiercely for the Russian command. This is why Wagner exists. And outside of that, when it comes to actual military victories, they have nothing that they can point to and say, here is a justification for our existence outside of that aura of deniability, that layer of deniability that it has served the Russian state before. In an official capacity, that is. There is an unofficial capacity which Wagner serves in, since Yevgeny Prigozhin's entire hopes, the entirety of his dreams lies with Vladimir Putin. If Vladimir Putin stops favoring him, he doesn't have many other allies in the Kremlin. And so Putin has helped to use Prigozhin to try to leverage him against the military by having Prigozhin go out and constantly criticize the military command, say, hey, military command is gay. They're so terrible. They're not working. They're failing. They're throwing all these lives away. They can publicly hurt, Putin can publicly hurt the image of military command, and he can help to stop any type of opposition figure rising from the depths of military command, be it some ragtag general or some officer who knows, somebody from military command cannot rise to challenge him. And so he serves an unofficial purpose, but still he needs to justify Wagner's existence in an official capacity when it comes to actual military successes as well. They don't have as many military successes here as they've had fighting more ragtag forces, for example, in Syria, where they could just, level block by block of the city with air power and then find no resistance because they've killed all the civilians and all the military personnel in a city block. And so Wagner can maybe report more victories there. But here they've had more trouble. And so if Prigozhin could get the Ukrainians to give up Bakhmut while also undermining his opponents in the official Russian military, it's hitting two birds with one stone, even if it could overall undermine the Russian war effort in other capacities. But if Prigozhin serves Prigozhin, that's the end of the day. If he cares more about having successes for him to bring back to Putin, to help himself politically, to protect himself politically, and to help the Wagner Group, his private military company, then yeah, I could see him going ahead with this, considering that a lot of the statements he is saying is probably undermining public trust in the Russian military. It isn't impossible for me to imagine that he would be also willing to undermine the Russian military directly. Definitely, since he's threatened in the past to pull out of Bakhmut if he doesn't get proper ammunition shipments. Some people might say, oh, well, he's caring about the lives of his soldiers. The way that they've treated a lot of these prison recruitees doesn't seem to be caring about the lives of his soldiers. I think it's more political than it is humanitarian. I don't think the Wagner Group really has much of a humanitarian angle to it. So that could be the justification for something like this. Now, do I think that this is the case? I don't know. I'm probably leaning towards yes, because I do have that low of an opinion of Prigozhin, even though this would be a good thing for him to do, to share this information. I also don't trust him. I think it was a good move if this was a legitimate offer made by Ukrainian military intelligence not to do this trade, because Prigozhin's untrustworthy. If he's willing to backstab the Russians, then he almost certainly is willing to backstab Ukrainian military intelligence as well. What would stop Prigozhin from simply taking Bakhmut and then giving Ukraine only a few of the promised military positions, or none at all, and then saying, haha, I tricked you. I did it all for Mother Russia. Then he turns to Putin and says, see, I did a psyop, daddy. And then Putin says, good job, and throws him a dog biscuit or whatever the relationship is on a person-to-person level. I don't know what that is. I'm not in those rooms, but I assume it's something similar to that. So I think it was the right move for them not to go ahead with it. Now, what's the other angle? Because I was saying this at the start. What's this other mysterious psyop angle that I haven't talked about as much? Well, I could see this being the case. Now, is this likely? No. But is it possible? Almost certainly. It wouldn't be impossible for the GUR, Ukrainian military intelligence, to see Prigozhin's public feuding with Russian military command, see these claims that Russian military command is undermining Wagner, is not sending them a decent amount of ammunition because of his critiques of people like Sergei Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, sees Wagner military command threatening to pull out troops from Bakhmut, making all these threats and thinking, I've heard reports of this infighting within the Russian military, undermining their communication on the ground. It's part of the reason why they might be getting pushed back on the flanks. Russian volunteers have talked about this publicly on Telegram. Maybe if we feed more into the Russian infighting, create more worry, create more anxiety, create more concern that they could backstab each other at a moment's notice, then we could make it so they want to work with each other less, make it so they trust each other less, make it so they communicate less, and therefore there's less cohesion in the Russian military. So then when a Wagner unit is attacked and it wants to get support from the official Russian military, maybe the official Russian military says, no, we don't care, or they just don't pick up the phone. Or maybe when the Russian military has the same situation, vice versa occurs, where the Russian military is getting attacked by Ukrainian forces and Wagner doesn't pick up the phone, or Wagner finds out and decides, you know what, it might benefit us here. We're not going to go and assist you. And then it undermines the entirety of Russia's military cohesion. Do I think that's likely? No. Do I think that is possible? Oh, yes. Ukraine has been involved in information warfare from the start of this war, and it wouldn't be a surprise if this was part of that. So I do want to put that out there. I do want to put that scenario out there because no matter what, this is good for Ukraine. In the first scenario, we now know that Prigozhin is willing to make these offers in private, even if it's not made in a completely honest and, hey, I will respect whatever you give us way. It still can undermine their military cohesion because other units are going to hear about this. Others are going to hear about these rumors. People are going to use this against Prigozhin in private quarters. Or in the other way, this is a big psyop by the Ukrainian military and it still undermines unit cohesion. No matter what, this undermines Russian military cohesion if it's a psyop that the Ukrainians are doing against the Russians, or, which is more likely, Prigozhin tried to make this offer behind closed doors, and now it's going to undermine Russia's trust in Dmitry in Prigozhin. No matter what, good to see. I am curious though. What is the truth at the end of the day surrounding this story? SIP for Rusk said each PAC-3 battery costs the U.S. Army about $500 million. Presumably, the export version is worth twice as much as the graded functionality. What the fuck am I supposed to be reading here? With the destruction of 2 Patriot batteries in Kiev, more than $1 billion was spent in loss. SIP for Rus. Wait, do we know that 2 Patriot batteries were destroyed in Kiev? By the way, I don't really think I trust this math. You'd have to send me like a link for how much these are worth anyway. But I haven't heard of any news of them getting destroyed. Do we have confirmation on that? Do you have photographs of like the destroyed wreckage or something? Because I've seen like Russia say that they destroyed Patriot batteries, but I also don't believe it. Until I've seen it, I don't believe it. Because I've seen Russia claim that they've destroyed like 14 HIMARS, and we have no evidence provided by anyone that these HIMARS were destroyed. In fact, if I remember correctly, earlier today, I saw Russia claim they destroyed it, and then when people asked for evidence, I saw the people who were also claiming it was destroyed saying, why would they need evidence? What, you're expecting them to have photos? Considering how much they've lied during this war, yes, I would expect them to have photos. Yes, also NATO confirmed it? Okay, well then please link it. Please link it. If NATO confirmed it, then I would like to see it. Patriot missile. News. Russia says it destroys Ukraine Patriot force. Putin's forces blow up U.S. Patriot missile system. This is from the Sun. And this is just footage of stuff happening near it. Is the Sun claiming this is the case? System filling the sky with rockets as to protect Kiev from unprecedented rocket blitz like that before appearing to be blown up. Appearing to be blown up. So they don't know if it was blown up. Where was it appearing to be blown up? Let's see. I'm looking for it. I don't see it appearing to be blown up. Where is it? Is this it? Okay, we have no clue. I'm sorry. That's too blurry for me. Do we have any evidence? Do you have anything else? U.S. assessing potential damage of Patriot missile defense system following Russian attack near Kiev. A U.S.-made Patriot air defense system was likely damaged, but not destroyed, as a result of a Russian missile barrage in and around Kiev early Tuesday morning local time. A U.S. official tells CNN. Okay, so the U.S. didn't confirm it. Okay, you said that 2 U.S. Patriot air defense systems were destroyed. Now the U.S. is saying that 1 was damaged. See, do you see the differences in what you were saying in chat and what the actual story is? That's kind of annoying, isn't it? That's kind of annoying. Because I can believe a U.S. air defense system got damaged. Over the last 24 to 48 hours, I've been in the Kiev Oblast. I've heard the explosions in the distance. I've heard it, and I'm in the countryside. I'm not in the city. I'm with the yee country hillbilly folk of Ukraine. Okay, I've been accepted by the Ukrainian Beverly Hillbillies, right? And I can still hear it in the distance. So I can believe that maybe it was damaged, right? I can believe this. But if you're going to prove that two U.S. Patriot batteries were destroyed, we're going to need some confirmation of that. Okay, Kona W, true. They scratched the green paint on it. I wonder how damaged it is, though. We have no clue. The U.S. is assessing to what degree the system was damaged, the official says. They will determine whether the system needs to be pulled back entirely or simply repaired on the spot by Ukrainian forces. Russia's defense ministry said on Tuesday in a post that a high precision strike by the hypersonic missile system in the city of Kiev hit a U.S.-made Patriot anti-aircraft missile system. Wait, if they said it hit it, then that means they're not even claiming it destroyed it. Ukrainian officials said on Tuesday that they successfully intercepted all 6 hypersonic missiles fired by the Russians. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. No wonder no wonder that's the story. Because if the story is that they destroyed 2 U.S. Patriot batteries, then that can distract from the fact that the missiles that are designed to never be shot down ever and are supposed to be advertised as missiles that are impossible to intercept, that the Ukrainians shot down 6 of them, or of course 6 to Ukrainian claims. Because if the story is Ukrainian air defense damaged, 6 Russian hypersonic missiles shot down, then that sounds a lot less one-sided, doesn't it? Is there evidence that 6 hypersonic missiles are destroyed, or don't we need any actual evidence on that? Well, no, I would need to see the evidence for that as well. But see how the story is being painted in? Because now you can understand how people's, like, the type of news they consume, how it biases their viewpoint. Somebody comes in here saying 2 U.S. Patriot air defense systems were destroyed by the Russians, costing a total of $1.1 billion in U.S. equipment damage. And I'm like, okay, so let's go look into the story. We do a little digging, we find out, and he says not only did the Russians confirm it, but the Americans confirm it as well. So we do a little digging, and we find not that 2 Patriot air defense systems were destroyed necessarily, we don't have any proof of that, but we do know that the U.S. officials and the Ukrainians are acknowledging 1 was damaged. Okay, we understand that. And then we see Ukrainian claims counter to the Russian claims of 2 being destroyed. They're saying that they shot down 6 hypersonic missiles in the Kiev Oblast. Now, I can say, as somebody who's in the Kiev Oblast and has been hearing the fireworks that the Russians have been firing off all day, I can believe that they shot a bunch of hypersonic missiles and other missiles at Kiev. Whether or not it was shut down, I don't know. Most of the explosions I heard seemed to be anti-air. Whether they shot down just 2, you can see as the story is getting more fleshed in, and getting more detail, now it's a lot less one-sided than as it was originally portrayed. So this is a great example of how you just need to do a little digging. Let's keep going though. I do want to show you guys one more clip from Wagner. Everybody around here loves Wagner clips. Everybody loves top 10 funny Wagner moments. So I wanted to show you guys some Wagner PMC guys. These are fighters for the private military company threatening Russian Duma Deputy Director Sobolev with punishment for calling Wagner an illegal paramilitary organization. Oh my goodness, let's see what he has to say. What these Wagner boys have to say, that is. We are combatants from Bakhmut. I'm mobilized. I'm a Wagner PMC fighter. and I'm a convict who came to PMC Wagner. We want to tell Deputy Sobolev, if you, F-slur, keep poking your nose, and the country loses the war because of F-slurs like you, we'll have to come to Red Square. And in order to save the people, the Russians, fuck you. And those like you in the ass. Okay, can I just say, there's nothing more than I like. There's nothing more I like from like the most masculine of homophobia. When somebody's like, you're a goddamn homo, you're a queer, you're an F-slur, fuck you, and then immediately follows it up with, I'm gonna fuck you in the ass. I love it, man. 1 second you're calling them the F-slur, the next second you're propositioning them. I love it, man. That's what I love about completely unaware hyper-masculine homophobia that never gets pushed back on. Because when you go into societies where this type of homophobia is rampant and in fact is the societal standard, when they say these things, there's nobody on Twitter or Reddit or YouTube, whatever the Russian shitty equivalent is, to mock them. And so they never correct themselves when they think about, God damn, it is weird that I called him an F-slur and then immediately propositioned him for gay sex. But there's no one to tell him. So he probably says shit like this all the time. He's probably like, you're a goddamn queer and you better stop or I'm going to suck your cock. He's probably saying stuff like that all the time. Doesn't even realize it. So come here, you old F-slur. See, just again, like, right. He says, I'm going to have anal sex with you. And then goes back to calling him an F-slur, man. Wagner, man. Wagner.